Continuing reading out behind-the-scenes information relating to the classic Doctor Who serial, The Enemy of the World. On its original broadcast, episode 6 of The Enemy of the World ended with a trailer promoting the next story, The Web of Fear. The trailer featured specially shot footage of the Doctor in the London Underground, talking to the audience about the impending return of the Yeti in the next story, before fleeing at the sound of distant shooting. Though episode 6 has now been returned to the BBC archives, this unique trailer remains lost, although it survives on audio, so the trailer is included on the BBC audio release of the story. The trailer has also been animated for the 2021 DVD release of The Web of Fear. Delightful. Episode 4 is the only episode of the story for which no telesnap record exists. Excuse me. The wiki decided to jump down the page. How dare you. I apologise profusely. Hold on. Which no telesnap record exists, and it remains unknown to this day as to why this episode is not covered. There is the possibility that John Curo was either ill or on holiday at the time of broadcast. John Curo was the man who took the telesnaps during the filming. Images of Patrick Troughton as Salamander have often been used to illustrate the Second Doctor in books and magazines, even though technically the images are not actually of the Doctor, although the fact that the Doctor impersonates Salamander complicates matters. These images are easy to spot due to the fact that Salamander, or Doctor as Salamander, wears his hair parted and has a ruddier complexion than the Doctor. Episode 6 is notable for its sudden ending, which omits any resolution about whether the people trapped underground were ever rescued. The novelisation of this story, published in 1981, is set in 2030, not 2018. Interesting. In the DVD featurette Directing Who with Barry Letts, included on the DVD of Planet of the Spiders, classic, Letts admitted he was very disappointed that the only surviving episode of The Enemy of the World was episode 3, as he felt it was the dullest of the 6 episodes, as there was material in it that was not relevant to the overall story. This is what happens when you have to pad these things out over more than 4 weeks. In October 2013, 4 years after Letts' death, it was announced that the 5 remaining episodes, along with 4 missing episodes from The Web of Fear, had been discovered and returned to the BBC. In the same featurette, Letts also admitted that he wasn't satisfied with The Enemy of the World on the whole, as he felt he tried to be too clever as a director and attempted too many technical feats without focusing enough on the drama of the story. Listen, the story's only got so much drama. We're going to find the technical feats more memorable in the long run. Both this story and the previous adventure, the Ice Warriors, have as their premise food shortages caused by overpopulation. In this case, Salamander is exploiting the need for farms to produce multiple crops in a season to amass power. Mary Peach appeared in the story because her kids wouldn't believe she was a real actress until she'd been on Doctor Who. The chase scene in episode 1 originally took place in a crowded holiday resort. This was changed due to logistical difficulties, very understandably. Initially, it was planned that the Doctor and Salamander would meet more than once, but due to the technical complexity, I can imagine, there was eventually only the one confrontation scene at the story's climax, utilising editing and a split-screen technique. This story was aired as part of a classic Doctor Who marathon on Twitch, and again in 2019. Twitch. Nothing good ever happens on Twitch. This is the first story since the Tomb of the Cybermen not to be set in a cold climate. The 4 key production roles for this story were all taken by men heavily involved in the development of Doctor Who. Writer David Whitaker had been the show's first script editor. Barry Letts, directing his first serial for the show, later became producer for the majority of the John Pertwee era, executive producer, and occasional scriptwriter. Script editor Peter Bryant became the show's producer from the next story, and Innes Lloyd, who was the show's current producer, but left after this story. Colin Douglas hated working on the serial. Regarding the series as low-grade children's fare, and well beneath his dignity, he remarked at the time that it was the worst thing he'd ever done and that he didn't want to be asked to appear on the show again. Despite this, he returned to the show 10 years later playing Reuben in Horror of Fang Rock. Horror of Fang Rock's great, by the way. While Patrick Troughton relished the opportunity to play a different character in the series, he was disappointed that the plot required Salamander to be visually similar to the Doctor, rather than allowing him to substantially modify his regular appearance. Rod and Curly were originally named Tibor and Otto. Mary Peach initially dropped out of the serial after being disappointed to learn that Astrid disappeared from the plot after episode 4. Barry Letts was eager to have her in the serial, so he agreed to restructure the final 2 installments to make Astrid more prominent. There we go. And I think we'll end it here. We're nearing 5 minutes. Thanks again, good and dear friends.